Welcome to RCR Wireless News. I'm Martha DeGrasse, and I'm here with Georges Karam. He is CEO and Chairman of Sequans. George, thank you so much for making the time today.
Thank you, Martha. Happy to be with you.
Well, I think congratulations are in order. Your Cat M1 chipset was recently certified by Verizon and very timely with Verizon launching its Category M1 network. So I think a lot of people have heard about Cat M1 and Cat 1, and I think that you're a great person to give us a little bit of an overview of the difference between these two LTE standards.
Yeah, Martha, essentially, as Cat 1, was something that we pushed 3 years ago, and we were the first to come with the Cat M1 solution with our Monarch chip today, a brand new chip built from scratch really to fit to this standard. When you look to the two, if you have access to the two, today you have access to the two technology. You can go on Verizon and run a Cat 1 or run a Cat M1. The main difference really will be if you would like to get something with high speed for industrial routers or some kind of video application, then Cat 1 is the best application. If you are looking really for low speed, something below few hundred kilobit per second or even down to few tens of kilobit per second, M1 is an ideal chip because it gives you on one side half of the cost. You can save half of the cost of the Cat 1, roughly speaking. But on top of this, you can optimize the power consumption and the footprint on all the use, depending on the use case you want to use.
So can you give us a little more information about how the power consumption is optimized and what kind of battery lives people can expect?
It's first of all, the standard itself, it adds, obviously when you are running a technology where it's narrowband, it's a narrowband LTE. So by definition, you're not wasting the power as you do it when you are using a Cat 1 or Cat 4. But the other major advantage is really the protocol that comes with the physical layer, where the Cat M1 introduced what we call EDRX and PSM, power saving mode protocols, allowing the device even to go into sleep mode and decide when it comes up. For example, in PSM, a device can say to the networks, look, I'm fine now. I'm going to stay in sleep mode for 2 hours, 3 hours. I don't need to be connected on the network, but don't kick me out. Keep me registered. I'm still there. And just only in 3 hours time, I'm going to wake up. And then in 3 hours, you wake up. So now if you are applying this application, you take something like a meter, a gas meter or water meter, where you are reporting once a day or each 4 hours, let's say you send a payload. We did some math there where you can use a battery 4,000 milliamp hour and you can get this meter staying 15 years without changing the battery. So you can have a meter with a battery powered and you don't change the battery for more than 10 years there. If you go with the wearable application, we looked as well some use cases where you have wearable application. Obviously in wearable depends how much the screen and the use case there, but you are talking about charging your fitness band or something like this once per month or once every 2 weeks or something like this. And if you go to a tracker device now where you have a GPS reporting and a Cat M technology, you can have something staying 5 years, with something like this. And also you can have a tracker for life where you have all this connected. And all this thanks really to the power saving mode protocol, plus obviously the fact that you are using a narrowband modem in a Cat M chip.
Okay, so your modems come to market as part of modules that are in turn part of connected devices. And I believe there are three makers of modules that have been certified using your chip on the Verizon network. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have, in reality, we have today more than 10 module makers designing with Sequans. Yeah, not all of them obviously certified, but we have some of them are really public, like Gemalto, Huawei. We have Fibocom, a Chinese vendor, Simcom. We have as well Visol, a Korean ODM, and we have Foxconn, WNC, USI. And so just to name, the public guys, and we have more others in the process. We didn't name them. Obviously, some of them are more advanced and they have the product ready, certified. Some they are in certification process, whether on Verizon or AT&T, and they are part of the work we are doing.
Fantastic. Now, up next, I think, is going to be Narrowband IoT, and I'm sure that's something you're looking at. So can you give us a little bit of information about how carriers and their customers should look at Narrowband IoT versus Cat M1?
Yeah, I mean, Narrowband IoT, obviously the major advantage what you are getting with this is really a little bit better price. So you do a little bit more saving, assuming that the volume, the ecosystem is big on NB1. Because when you're talking about the price, obviously as an engineer, you can look to the two pictures, put them on a table and say, this is cheaper. I can tell you today NB1 is cheaper than M1. Now, if the market, for example, if you see that the US market, all the carriers today launching Cat M1, if you have others in Europe and so on, where Cat M1 is bigger than NB-IoT, you may end by having the price advantage more in favor of M1, even if it's not by definition, it should not be the case. NB1 is cheaper by design. But then essentially you're saving maybe, $1, $2 at the module level when you go to NB1 if you optimize an NB1 solution. Sequans, the way we did it today is that we came with a chip that supports M1 and NB1 in the same time, because when we look to the market, we realized that some of the carriers that are going first with M1, some and postponing the NB1 to come in a year or 2 years later. This is the case of the US carrier, Verizon, AT&T. You have some other carriers, some of them in Europe, for example, Vodafone, some Chinese, they are eager to start with NB1 first, and they don't want to start with M1. So when you look to on a worldwide basis, if you want to have a global solution and offer all the carrier of the world one unique solution, even enabling grooming between carriers, so ideally you can get a solution that supports M1 and NB1, and this is our Monarch chip that supports the two. And at the same time, we made a design where we call it the global SKU, worldwide SKU. In other words, all the frequency band are supported without extra hardware. This allows us to have a module running on Verizon, running on AT&T, or running on Vodafone or China Mobile without really extra cost in terms of hardware, and change in the same time the protocol from M1 to NB1 if the carrier is offering NB1 and not offering M1.
So can the protocol be changed on the chip via a software update?
Absolutely. I mean, we can have, and and then it depends on the application, because all this depends on the size of the memory. But you could say, I want to have a solution which can be configured M1 and stay M1, or configured NB1 and stay NB1. Or I would like to have a solution that supports the two images, and then just switch over there. If you lose the M1 signal, you go and check if there is an NB1 signal. This is, a typical application is a tracker device. A tracker, and you can imagine a tracker between Europe and the US and China. And then this device, you wake up in Europe and you realize that there is no M1 network because Vodafone is covering with NB1. And then you can take the NB1 connectivity, assuming you have roaming, obviously, between the carriers on the SIM card, and you provide.
Yeah. Is asset tracking the biggest vertical that you foresee for the near term, or is there another that might be even bigger?
Definitely, it's a big market, and it's a new, if you want. Because if you talk about, for example, metering is a big market, but metering used to be in the, I would say, traditional M2M market. We were talking about electrical meter. Now, thanks to the power consumption advantage that we are getting with Cat M1, this business is going to expand from electrical meter to gas meter to water meter. And the metering is going to be a big subject. What I would call it a tracker in general, because you are tracking utility. It could be about utilities, but it could be consumer tracking. It could be suitcase tracking. It could be pet tracking. So definitely this application is big and large because it's all about positioning things. And in the past, we didn't have good technology to run those kind of application, because if you put 2G with GPS, you cannot run this on a small battery. While now with Cat M1 or NB-IoT, this will be an ideal scenario, and I expect this to be a big market, definitely.
All right, fantastic. Well, you have really run head to head, and in some cases even ahead of some very large companies in this space. So I'd just like to ask you before we finish about a little bit about your roadmap and how you intend to sort of stay out front in this market that's really changing quickly.
Yeah, I mean, Martha, essentially, we are really focusing on IoT. Why we are doing better than the big company in general, really, because we are small and focusing really on this market, and this market matter a lot for us. It's big for us, huge for us. While maybe for a big company, this is really, if really all what you are selling is a modem chip, it's not that big. You're selling a chip, a couple of dollars. I mean, it's not really big when you compare it to someone playing in a smartphone, selling for $10 chipset in this smartphone or $15 chipset in this smartphone. So that's why really it's very important for us. Obviously, our strategy is taking two axes. On one side, would like really to maintain the leadership with Cat M1 and NB-1 and support the standard. As you know, the standard is evolving. People are thinking about release 14 and so on, so you'll have a new chip to come there. We also would like to get an optimized chip much better than the one we have. We have Monarch today, and we're working on what we call a Monarch 2. We're nothing public yet, but obviously it's all about more integration, more power consumption optimization, more cost optimization. And the other angle, which is expanding the footprint. And this is what we did with our Monarch SX that we announced in Barcelona, which is instead of getting just only the modem function, we're going more to give an SoC, which is offering, in addition to the modem, Cortex M4, sensor hub, interface, the media engine, as well, graphic processing. All this for someone doing, for example, a wearable application, where then instead of having 2-3 chips to do the function, he will get one chip from Sequans, and he's able to build a complex solution where he has the connectivity with Cat-M, but he has as well the sensor hub, the media engine, and the graphic management as well. So our strategy will stay the same over time, really optimizing the modem in cost and power, but also support the release 14 and 15 when they will come there. And on the other side, really expanding the footprint by adding more function around the modem, so we can give more comprehensive solution to our customers.
So if we were to have this conversation again 18 months from now, which IoT use case do you think we'd be talking about the most? The same as the ones we're talking about now, or something different?
No, I believe you are going to see metering, obviously all things about alarm panel, smart home. This will be expanding, the asset tracking, and this will be there. So call it about the M2M expansion. But I would like in 18 months to see as well a lot of wearable application and e-health application. This will be a new thing. And I believe many people are looking to this today because, when you think about the wearable market, it's a big market today, but still stuck with the Bluetooth connectivity. You need to keep your phone next to you. And the use case, it's not really that interesting, because if you need to get your Fitbit and the band and go and run and keep your smartphone with you, well, if you can keep your smartphone at home and go with your watch, you are over weekend, but you can still get a call, you can still get a text messaging, and you have at the same time your fitness band, whatever. I believe a lot in this application as well.
All right. Georges Karam, CEO and Chairman of Sequans. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Martha. Thanks very much.